It all begins when Matthew, a movie lover, arrives in Paris to study French for a year. At the peak of the French Revolution in 1968, a group of people called the film buffs stage a protest to state their displeasure about the laying off of Henry Langlois. At the protest gathering, Matthew meets Isabelle, who tells him that she and her brother have been watching him for a while and he is always alone. While they talk, Isabelle's twin brother approaches them and he bonds with Matthew. The protest becomes violent after the police attack, forcing the trio to run away. After escaping the police, Matthew gets to know the siblings and he enjoys their company. However, it soon starts to rain, bringing the night to an end as Matthew bids them goodbye. Excited about his new French friends, Matthew writes to his mother, telling her about Theo and Isabelle, while he touches himself. The next morning, Theo calls Matthew, inviting him to dinner at their home and Matthew happily accepts. Later that day, Matthew shows up for dinner and meets Isabelle's parents, who are happy to meet him. At dinner, Matthew impresses Isabelle's father with his ingenuity, but the dinner soon turns sour after Theo has a disagreement with his father as they both view the world differently. After dinner, Matthew is surprised to see Isabelle kiss Theo. She kisses him goodnight and walks away. Matthew decides to stay the night at their house as his roommate is always mean to him. However, Matthew wakes up in the middle of the night after having a nightmare and he goes to the bathroom to relieve himself. While returning to his room, Matthew decides to spy on Isabelle, but he gets the surprise of his life after he sees Isabelle and Theo unclad together on the bed. The next morning, Isabelle's parents go on a vacation, and Isabelle wakes Matthew up with a kiss. She states that she was removing sleep from his eyes as she usually does for Theo, but Matthew finds the action strange. Shortly after, Matthew joins the siblings in the bathroom, but he feels uncomfortable after Isabelle makes suggestive impressions about his lips. He tries to leave, but Theo informs him that they want him to stay at their house till their parents get back, instead of staying in a hotel. Matthew writes to his mother about all that has happened to him and asks her if his father is still mad at him. While he writes the letter, he gets into an argument with Theo about who the best actor of all time is, but Isabelle interrupts them by playing a record Theo hates. Theo tries to turn it off, but Isabelle doesn't let him, leading to the siblings having some fun and Matthew joins in. Soon after, they go home happy as it begins to rain and Matthew tries to change out of his clothes. However, Theo convinces Matthew to change in his room and offers him his clothes. After changing his clothes, Matthew browses through the siblings' pictures, but he is interrupted by Theo, prompting him to stuff Isabelle's picture in his pants. Not long after, Isabelle walks into the room in a costume. She asks Theo for the title of the movie she is portraying, but Theo doesn't know it and he loses the game. As punishment, which the siblings call a forfeit, Isabelle tells him to touch himself, while she and Matthew watch, which makes Matthew very uncomfortable as he stares at Isabelle completely speechless. Afterward, Matthew gets angry after Theo asks him if he was aroused by what he has seen. He finds out that Theo and Isabelle are Siamese twins, but he does not understand the relationship that exists between them. Later that night, Theo decides to revenge. He acts out a death scene and demands the name of the movie from Matthew and Isabelle. Unable to provide an answer, he tells Isabelle to pay a forfeit by sleeping with Matthew, despite knowing that she is a virgin. Although Matthew is scared at first and tries to run away, surprised to find out that he is her first, even though she and Theo sleep on the same bed together. One day, Matthew asks Isabelle what she would do if her parents ever found out about her relationship with Theo, and she reveals that she will kill herself. Matthew goes to the kitchen to get some food and he finds Theo laying beside Isabelle when he returns. He thanks Theo for allowing him to be one with Isabelle and states that Theo is also part of him as he is the other half of Isabelle. However, Theo is not impressed and he insists that he was not joking about Isabelle and him being a Siamese twin. The following morning, Isabelle tries to make breakfast, but she fails miserably, forcing Theo to pick food from the trash and they all eat. As the protests continue to intensify, Theo goes to school and his friends chastise him for skipping school as Theo hardly leaves his apartment. Theo goes home, he shares a bath with Matthew and they get into an argument as Theo believes that violence only breeds death. Isabelle soon joins them in the tub and they fall asleep after getting high. Matthew tells Isabelle and Theo he loves them and he asks that they show him the proof of their love and not just say it to him. They try to shave his pubic hair, but he gets angry. He states that Isabelle and Theo would never grow until they stop clinging to each other. He asks Isabelle to go out on a date with him without Theo and she accepts. They go to the cinema to watch a musical movie without Theo, but they make out throughout the film. On their way home, Matthew and Isabel find out that all the streets have been closed as the protests continue to escalate. At home, Isabel discovers that Theo has his girlfriend over. She gets angry because she cannot sleep on Theo's bed, and Matthew manages to convince her to sleep in her room. Matthew calls Theo a hypocrite as he doesn't believe in the protests, causing Theo to get angry, and he begins to choke Matthew. However, Matthew and Theo start to get romantic together, but they are interrupted by Isabel, who tells them that she has a surprise for them. The surprise turns out to be a makeshift bedsheet fort, and they fall asleep holding each other. In the middle of the night, Isabel gets scared about her relationship with Theo, and she makes him promise that he will love her always, despite Matthew thinking that they are a freak. The following morning, Isabel's parents arrive unexpectedly, and they are surprised to see the three of them sleeping unclad. They decide not to disturb. They leave a check beside them before taking off, still in awe over what they have seen. Soon after, Isabel wakes up. She finds the check beside her and realizes that her parents found her unclad with Theo and Matthew. Isabel becomes sad, and she attaches a hose to the gas outlet in the kitchen as she tries to kill them all. She lies down beside her brother and Matthew with the hose in her hands. However, her suicide attempt is foiled after the boys wake up due to the sound of brick smashing into their window. They look down and they are amazed at the thousands of students protesting on the streets. Isabel, Theo, and Matthew join the protest, but Matthew gets separated from the siblings. Theo spots a group of protesters with Molotov cocktails. He picks up a Molotov and tries to throw it at the police, but Matthew stops him, reminding him that violence is not the answer. Matthew tries to convince Theo by kissing him, but Theo refuses to listen, and Isabel follows him. Disappointed, Matthew walks away from the protest, leaving Isabel and Theo to their fate. Theo holds Isabel's hand and throws the Molotov at the police, causing the police to charge the crowd and attack them.